Good morning, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Coffee with Tom and Joanne. I'm Joanne Toronto.
And I'm Tom Matthews, and I am thrilled that we have a guest today. We have Ryan MceNiff, who is the owner of Minutewomen in-home healthcare in Lexington. Welcome, Ryan.
Thanks so much for having me. It's exciting. I've watched your videos. You're world famous on LinkedIn, and now I'm part of the group of the privileged few that have joined the show.
Oh,
Thanks,
welcome.
We're really excited to have you here today because a lot of our clients and friends are in a position where their parents have been in their home for 30 years and they don't want to leave. They want to stay, but they have some needs for in-home healthcare. What are some things that you're seeing, Ryan, right now from families that are calling you?
Yeah, so one of the things that's come up recently is families who are trying to decide whether they want to stay in their home and move into an assisted living and what they should do. And while this is going to sound very biased because I'm in home care, I think you'll see my thesis and rationale behind it makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah.
What families are kind of just trying to figure out is it better, is mom going to be better in assisted living or better at home? And
Right.
generally most people don't want to leave their home, but that doesn't mean they won't be successful at an assisted living.
Right.
And so the two big the big differentiator at the end of the day of what an assisted living is that it's basically room and board with activities. And if your loved one really needs activities and wants to be social, I can't do that with home care, but
Right.
assisted living can't do what I can do, right? And so if you know that mom or dad needs to have that interaction and social activity with lots of people, assisted living is a no-brainer. And so the point that I'm trying to make is that if you're 50-50 or 60-40 on which way to go,
Yeah.
my overall feeling is you should try home care first. And again, I know it sounds biased, but here's the reason why.
Yeah.
And this has come up a couple times just in the last year, is that it's a lot easier to kick home care out of your home and then move into an assisted living than it is to move into an assisted living, find out you don't love it, and then figure out how to get mom or dad back home, especially if you've worked with such a great team as Tom and Joanne, and they're going to sell your house in like 5 seconds. So then you're calling up Tom and Joanne and saying, hey, can we kind of like, can I get can I get that house back, please? And that's not going to happen, or it will, and it's going to cost you an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
And so that's happened a number of times where people have been dissatisfied with an assisted living, and it might be the assisted living's fault, it might not. Sometimes it's just not a good fit. And they say, wow, we wish we had tried home care first. And then you can kind of ease into other options if that doesn't make sense any longer. And so that's one of the big things we've been hearing and seeing over the last 6 to 12 months is people maybe having a little buyer's remorse with assisted living or trying to make the determination of what's best. And they're kind of split 50-50 down the family lines.
Yeah.
And I think it's great. Oh, go ahead,
Tom.
I was just gonna say, I think it's great to have this topic because, you know, when mom or dad needs that care, it's crisis mode and everyone starts to panic. And when you're panicking, you're not thinking clearly. And so I think it's great that we're having this conversation and being able to put this material out for people so they can see it. Because, you know, they might be seeing every time they visit mom or dad, they can just see their cognitive abilities just slowing down. And hopefully this can reach people and help them. Go ahead, Joanne.
So Ryan, what I'm curious about is, you know, because sometimes there's long-term care, right? So mom or dad gets to the point where they need, you know, in-home care for basic living functions. But what about in an acute situation? Do you provide home health care in those scenarios?
So we're considered a non-medical model, and we provide care for things called activities of daily living. Simply the things you and I take for granted: putting on clothes, taking a shower, using the restroom, making your bed, and doing laundry. And generally the two biggest needs that we have sometimes they're separate, sometimes they're a bit of both, is memory issues, dementia, and fall prevention, right? So somebody's falling in the home, so somebody needs to be there to make sure they're safe, or if they fall, they're not on the ground for 8 or 12 hours. And of course, we all know what dementia is. People can wander, people can leave the stove on, and there can be those types of cognitive issues. But when it comes to, when it comes to actual medical care and somebody needing that type of help, that's where nursing homes come in. And right now, nursing homes for general purposes are basically mainly used for housing people with severe dementia, that they've gotten to a point where they can't be at home anymore, and they can't afford 24-hour care, so they go into a nursing home for that reason. And so assisted livings have capitalized on that, because now almost all assisted livings have a dementia unit, or a memory care unit, they call it, where there's a bit more staff. It's still pooled care, but somebody can stay in the memory care side of the assisted living without needing to go to a nursing home. And that's obviously hurt nursing homes business quite a bit. So that's kind of what's happening. The other thing that's happening, to answer the question about acute issues, is that nursing homes have a short-term rehab side. So if somebody breaks a hip, they end up going to the nursing home for PT and OT and rehabilitation. Well, there's been a major decline in people going to the nursing homes. They just discharge from the hospital right to home. And that's been another big hit financially for nursing homes. And of course, we can come in and do the PT exercises and help out with the home care. And so that's why nursing homes are hurting so badly. And that was before the whole mess with COVID occurred. I mean, that was all happening in pre-2020. So
when would you say is the right time for somebody? Like, do you provide an initial consultation? How, when you're introduced to somebody, what should they expect?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, there's pre-COVID and there's post-COVID, and I was explaining this to Tom, and I'll try to be a bit more succinct about it. But we're facing the same staffing issues as everybody else is out there, and we had minimum hours that were between 15 and 20 hours a week, and now you're seeing those to be 30 to 40 hours a week of minimum time. So the problem that brings up is somebody that falls into that gap that only needs a few hours here and there of care. And that really is coming down onto family members and friends, and somebody that lives in the neighborhood that you can throw $100 a day to go over there and do that, because we can't get caregivers to go to those short hour cases.
Right.
In general, when people are considering home care, especially in those crisis scenarios that Tom was talking about, they're usually at best 6 months behind where they should be. The falls already happened probably 6 or 7 times, and now mom finally fractured her skull, or whatever horrible thing happened, and the issue is now banging on the front door so loud that it might break off the door from the hinges. Like it's that much of a need. But at the same time, if somebody called us up looking for 3 hours of care 3 days a week, there's just no way we can do it. So there is a major, bigger and bigger gap of people who need a little bit of care, but the private industry can't handle it right now.
Yeah.
So Ryan, if people need to contact you, what's the best way for them to find you? Because we're kind of wrapping up on our time.
Sure.
Cut us short, but
no,
what's
not
the
a
best way for
problem.
people to reach you?
The best way is just to type in Minutewomen into Google.
Okay.
We'll come right up, and you'll see our number. And so we are Minutewomen Home Care, and that's how you can find us.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you, Ryan. And thank you everyone for joining us today for Coffee with Tom and Joanne. I'm Tom Matthews.
And I'm Joanne Toronto. Cheers.